Welcome back to the show, friends. Scott Fischer here, Options for Senior Living. And you found Don't Let Haboob Hit You in the Face. We started this podcast several months ago because I have worked in the healthcare spaces for over 25 years. I've worked with families who are struggling mightily in navigating the aging journey of a loved one. And there's a lot of things that are going on in the lives of their loved one that they may not be paying attention to. It may be the season that they should be paying attention, but they're not, or there's denial or pushback. And unfortunately, this haboob, this big dust storm, is headed straight for the lives of so many of our loved ones. Over my shoulder here, that's Arizona State University. Last summer, as a wall of dirt hit the city, 65 miles wide, a mile high, and it swallowed up good part of the city. Behind that was thunderstorms and rain and wind that ripped down trees, knocked off roofs, and it was a heck of a mess that day. And so many of us went to work that morning and knew it was the season, but weren't expecting that. And I'm telling you, families tell me so many times they're in it with their parents. Everything's going fine. Yesterday, everything was cool. And now they're in the middle of some sort of crisis. And the haboob represents that crisis. And man, we want to equip our friends, our viewers, our listeners with the tools necessary to either help you avert those crises or to get you some lifelines and resources if you find yourself in it. And my guests routinely are professionals from the greater Phoenix market and even around the nation that have experience in these spaces, work with families who have been through it. They coach and counsel folks as they're dealing and addressing some of these issues. And today I've got Paul Bucky with me today. How you doing, Paul?
Good, Scott. I'm doing well.
Paul is the executive director at the BioTouch Healing Institute. He's in our sister community south of us, 100 miles. He's in Tucson, Arizona. Not everybody from Tucson and Phoenix talk to each other. It's kind of like a civil war between the two cities, isn't it?
That's funny.
Somewhere around Cassie Graham and Mason-Dixon line. Hey, tell everybody about the work that you do, and thank you for being here today. I was fascinated by the things you told me when we first talked.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully by the end of this little show, we'll be able to give people something that they can actually start using right now that won't be some theory. What we do is we share what's called BioTouch healing. And very simply, it's using the index and the middle finger of our hands to lightly touch on the skin of another person. It's really about one person touching another, just with what we call it loving touch. It's putting love into action. And we have a system that we teach that can address any symptom, stress, pain, symptom of disease. But as we're going to talk about here, how we can work with our elderly community, a community of us that are stuck in these bodies that keep getting older and need a little help. And this is a great way for families to help. Yeah.
Do you find people push back about getting older? What's the pushback about?
I think especially in this Western society, we put our elders over there on the sideboard. I know I've worked with some people in other cultures and they have a high respect. My mother, when she was in care down here with a Filipino family, they have high love and regard for their elders. They treat them as if they're the gods and stuff. But we as a Western society, I think we're always trying to stay young and take this supplement or do this program and lift weights and go on a run and on. And yet the body, we're both moving into those elder years. It all of a sudden decides, well, you know something, I'm in my age. And the body does certain things as we grow older. And I think something like BioTouch, actually, we did some research to show that BioTouch helps with healthy aging. It's not about not aging. It's like, how can we healthy age? So that's why we share BioTouch.
Yeah.
And, without trying to recommend or diagnose people.
Yeah. I've been fascinated by the question I asked you because I just turned 63 and I was in a restaurant a month or two back and having some issues tracking the conversation. And then the next night I'm over at church. I'm in a Bible study, and there was some teaching, and then there was some table discussions, and then 60 guys all turned their voices on at the same time, and I couldn't hear what was going on at the table. I was talking to one of my guests, Dan Houston, who owns and operates an audiology clinic, multiple clinics in Phoenix, Paul. And he said, hey, you should be concerned, because we should all be concerned that untreated hearing loss is a major contributor to the onset of dementia. And I'm like, ooh, here's my situation. He goes, come into the clinic. We would like to see you. And 2 weeks from today, I'm going to pick up my hearing aids. And if I'm gonna be a mouthpiece for all this, then he can't be just all about the wrinkle fillers and the low fat diet or going keto or whatever, just to keep my youth. But I've got to embrace what's happening, the changes in our body. And you said how BioTouch can help us navigate some of that. Tell everybody so it's the light touch and love.
Yeah. So
you had a story more that you told me that kind of got you started on all this path.
a story. You blipped out. A story of what?
Oh, I'm sorry. When we first met, you talked about how you were turned onto this methodology and how this interaction really opened your heart to all kinds of opportunities. And so I just was curious, maybe start there with the story, and then we could kind of move forward to how this really helps people in the present.
Yeah. So my story was, I spent years back in the days when we were all hippies and living out on the land and all that kind of stuff, and moved into this little town in Southwest Colorado, Mancos, Colorado. And I got this pinched nerve in my back, and I tried doing a lot of self-healing work, and the community, very conservative community, was telling me about this guy doing healing work. And I was always leery of healers, so to speak, because they always had their hand out for a lot of money and then sold you a bunch of stuff. And anyhow, I had the pain for a year, and I'm on the way to the dump one day, and this guy's house, who didn't have a telephone, he and his wife lived there, and I drove up the driveway, and this guy comes out. A guy looked like a guy in the Navy in the 50s, back, big barrel chest, tight white t-shirt, rolled up sleeves, cigarettes in his sleeve, grooming clean hairdo when we used to wear that greased back hairdo. And I'm down below with a ponytail and flip-flops and cut-off jeans. And I thought I was in the wrong place. And he said, no, come on up to the house. His name was Norman, and he took me up, and his wife was there, Carol. And when I walked in the house, I was inundated with smoke. They both were chain smokers and chain coffee drinkers. And I sat down at the table, and I said to myself, oh, this is impressive. There was no pretense of healing. There was no whale music and incense burning. It was just, there was coffee and cake, and the soaps were playing on the TV. And after a lot of gossip, we went into his bedroom, and I just removed my shirt. We touched right on the skin, just took off my shirt, and he washed his hands and took 2 fingers, index and middle finger of one of his hands, and he touched me very lightly on the skin just below the breastbone. And he took those same 2 fingers and touched me just to the left of that big bone at the base of our neck. And then he took both hands and touched around different areas of my back, laid me on my tummy. And after about 15, 20 minutes, he walked out, didn't say anything. And I put on my shirt, went back out there. I said, God, what'd you do? He said, well, I just touched. And I said, what should I expect? He said, whatever. I said, oh, okay. Should I come back? He said, if you want. And then the kicker is when I said, how much do I owe you? And he went, oh, no, we don't charge. So not only did they not charge, they discouraged people from leaving anything. And you'd find $5 in the planter box, a can of coffee under the bed, pack of cigarettes, people bring food. And people came from all over the 4 corners. You had very religious people, you had migrant farm workers, you had Indians from the Winslow community, all coming to this house, and they all had to just show up, no phone, getting touched, that real light touch, and feeling incredible results. And I just hung out for a long time. 2 sessions and my pain was gone after a year.
Really?
And one of the old timers came in and said, Norman and Carol brought love to the Mancos Valley. And that's when the light bulb went off in my head. And I said, oh my God, we need to get this out to the public. And so I was the stooge to get Norman and Carol and myself and my wife at that time to create a way to teach it. This is the way we teach it. We have a little manual, ebook version now too. The technique is so simple, it fits on a little pocket manual, 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And as you can see, there's just little drawings that we have. And in the manual, it tells you where the points are. And then there's links to videos. So it's very easy to learn at home. And we'll actually teach people how to do just the greeting, which if that's all you could do in a situation with our elder community, just that alone, we're showing a huge change in stress levels, just the stress levels. And our research showed if you can reduce stress levels, you can actually create a rise in immune system responses and cortisol level changes. So we have research too to show that. But so that's how I got involved. And my job for the past 35 years has just been to share this freely.
People say stress kills. It's the American.
Yeah, we have Dr. Stevenson did our research on our website, justtouch.com/research. There's a chart that she showed of all the stressors in our life. Most of those we can't do anything about. Some of them are generational. And that those chronic stress cycles create what we see: high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, all those things that are pretty common for the American body. And that she showed when you put BioTouch into that stress cycle, you actually create a stress hormone regulation and a rise in a protein that fights cancers and tumors and helps with healthy aging. So that was a great little project she did.
Wow. How old is the research, Paul?
That one's probably 15 years old. And then she just did another one this past year with an infrared headband thing that we put on that measures brainwave patterns in this frontal cortex. And the beginning research with that is showing that in the midst of the couple of minutes of the BioTouch headset, there was a regulation in this prefrontal cortex, which when it's called coherence. And when you have a coherence in that area, you actually have less stress, less anxiety, more focus, even at all kinds of levels. And she found a coherence in every single one of the 43 women that we worked with. So that was just done last month.
Yeah. I can speak from both a personal perspective as well as a professional who's been walking families through these life episodes. The amount of stress, the sleep disruption, if you have any compulsive habits, they're all inflamed. Eating, drinking, sleeping, spending, name it, whatever. They are all triggered because there's a lot going on in my mom's case, there was a lot going on, Paul, with her dynamically, relationally with my brothers, relationally with me and my family here, financially. There was time investment. There was just lots of stuff. And as mom was aging and having more challenges, you could see her defiance and her resistance and her unwillingness to take input. All of that was inflamed, right? Because she's now losing the battle. We all lose it. How well do we embrace it or allow it? Or do we have a faith construct that allows us to lean into it? As some people of faith do. Some people that do not fight death for everything they can and resist it as if it's never going to be them. So there's that much pain going on. And the aftermath is my brothers and I have very disrupted relationship right now. There was a lot of financial damage done supporting mom all that time that she didn't do for herself. There was some surprises she left us that she didn't talk about before she was gone. I'm not unique. This is everybody's family on some level. Right. And so I'm guessing that if we might listen to you, my loved one and I, my wife and I might learn a little something that would help us reduce those cortisol levels and reduce some of that that we're feeling, because now we're straight in it with her parents.
And what's nice in that relationship, like you said, your wife is with her mother right now, just doing what we call the greeting and this headset. I've worked a couple of times with Alzheimer's patients, dementia patients. I've worked with death and dying patients. I worked with my mother who they killed on an operating table, and they said if she lived, she'd be a vegetable. And I went in and all I had was BioTouch. Worked with her while she was in a coma. And the short of that story was 6 months later, she was walking on a beach in Hawaii. So I've had personal experience. And while I was in that hospital, I learned just what you said. People were afraid, they were suffering, their loved one was in ICU, and they had nothing that they could do. And that's when I realized how important it was to get this technique out to the masses of people, not necessarily to cure anybody, all of it, but my mother's situation was quite unique. But in your situation, even with your mother-in-law, to have something that takes the edge off, and then for her, your wife, to be able to come home and you to be able to do something for her that helps her stress level as the caregiver.
Yeah.
That's important too.
That's what I'm really most interested in. What can we take away, or what can you teach us, if anything, today that can we take away that we can start to use? And again, how do we learn more about your programs so that we can benefit from BioTouch?
Yeah. Just go to our website, justtouch.com, and there's nice information there. There is a way to get what we showed as far as the manual. It's not written correctly here. There is what we'll teach here is what we call the greeting. The greeting is the key to the system. And I'll just show you how to do that. I can show you the picture. You can see here, there's a picture.
Yep.
And there's two numbers there. We have a number 1 down there below the breastbone and a number 2 just to the left of that little diamond. Okay. Now, in the ebook part of it, there's a link showing you how to do it, but I'll take you through it right now. And if everybody just takes their index and the middle finger of their dominant hand, it's the only set where you need a dominant hand. So I'm left-handed. So you take that dominant hand, and if you find it on yourself, feel that breastbone, and then it goes into a very soft tissue area. Some of us a little softer than others. And you touch there lightly, just below that breastbone, with those two fingers for 6 to 8 seconds. That's all it takes, 6 to 8 seconds. Longer isn't better. You're now going to take that same dominant hand and you're going to touch that second point I showed you in the book. And that is found, if you go to behind your neck and you follow your neck down and lean your head forward there's a big bone that pops out. And if you go to the left of that, just about an inch to an inch and a half, this is not a science like acupuncture, so you have a lot of leeway. And you hold that same point for 6 to 8 seconds. Those 2 points done with the same hand is what we call the greeting. That's the key to the system. If you knew nothing else in the manual, then you could now you always take both hands, 2 fingers of both hands, and lightly touch around a particular pained area, or we have an eye set, a sinus set, a back set, lung set, allergy set, blood pressure set. We have different sets, but that greeting just brings the tone down. And then if you just put 2 fingers at the front of your forehead and the other hand right at the base of the skull, at the bottom of the base of the skull in the middle of the neck, and you hold that for 6 to 8 seconds, that's the first step of the headset. And that does a whole number to the brain and its stress hormone levels. And that's just the first part of the whole headset. But just doing ANA, just doing the greeting and ANA with another human being and then letting them do that to you, that wouldn't even take you a couple of minutes. And then just notice the result. Again, we're not slapping you on the forehead and all of a sudden all your ills go away. But I think if you notice what the senses in your body, there's this huge deflation of stress that goes on. Oh. And then for people who want to learn more, it's all in the ebook. We have classes in it, or you can teach yourself. And the nice thing is you can't hurt anybody. I had somebody say, oh, this is just a quack system and your research doesn't say anything. And I'm like, I'm not here to sell anything. We're still a nonprofit group here in Arizona, Tucson. We offer all of our sessions at a center here in Tucson on a donation basis. We have no paid staff. I don't get paid. None of our staff gets paid. So it's an all volunteer program that's just trying to get this simple technique to the families.
Yeah. Wow. We have friends and colleagues that are in our spaces that are in Tucson, and I'm going to be down there in a couple weeks. And would love to help you and assist you support getting this word out to the community even farther. And I told you I wanted to do a workshop with my kids and my wife with you so that we can get better acquainted. I think anything we can do, and I think we have to be open minded to understanding how the body works. So we don't get it all. The body's amazing,
Right.
and it does all kinds of healing things that we don't get. And modern Western medicine wants to sell a lot of pharmaceuticals and supplements. And there are some simple things we can learn about this that can be helpful.
Yeah. And what's nice is this doesn't go instead of it. I've dealt with my own cancer stuff, and my wife who they were going to do an eye operation. So we said, okay, let's just do a few minutes every night before the operation. And when she went in for her pre-op interview with the eye doctor, he said, "Are you seeing better?" And she goes, "I thought so, but I thought I was just imagining it." And the x-rays and the MRIs showed it had actually improved just in that 3 weeks, and they canceled the operation. So I've seen amazing things, even though we didn't do that to get rid of it. We just did it to get her ready. So it's a great
Yeah.
pre-op, post-op situation too.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I can envision so many families benefiting and your contact information as part of the arsenal. As a professional, I make a living at the placement side of this, Paul, where I help families find the right long-term care solution when their loved one needs assisted living or a group home, maybe like an assisted living home. You said your mother was in a Filipino run
Right.
situation. And that we do that all the time. And that's what we've done for 23 years. But the reality of it is I'm just a human in the world like everybody else. And we experience all of these and we needed a way to define ourselves. And so I've often said to people, I'm an educator, I'm an advocate, and I'm an expert in the resources of my community. And that sort of defines what I do while I help people and I get paid for helping them find the right situation. And so having the right resources, I'm constantly soaking up and looking for new things, or maybe not new, but new to me anyways, that I have a connection to somebody who can really help people with something very unique. And when you talk about that stress reliever and dropping that cortisol levels and getting the stressors down, when you're up at 3 and 4 in the morning and you don't know why, that's not good. We were supposed to sleep till 6
Right.
or 7. When you're having a hard time and you're laying there at midnight and then you're up at 3, it's even worse. Man, I can just see so many benefits to this. And if professionals knew how to guide people towards you, man, what a great thing they could do for their clients.
And that's why we're trying to give it to professionals. We can give continuing ed credits to nurses and doulas and massage therapists. And the key is for people to pass it on. We also have on the website justtouch.com, if people go up on top and it talks about health conditions, we did have a whole workshop on care for the caregiver. So you can look that up too, and people can look at the video we did with somebody in your same situation. And then there's a little workbook you can download from there that will give people just a couple of sets of points they can do. And again, it all has links to videos and very easy self-taught, where people can contact us at office@justtouch.com. And we'd be happy to work with individuals too.
Gotcha. Ladies and gentlemen, stress is deadly. These things that affect us, caregivers are feeling it so deeply. They're missing work. They're under pressure to perform at work. They oftentimes have, not only do they have their parents and their kids, they're the sandwich generation, but there's grandkids. So there could be 4 generations all balancing here in this family system. And it's just my personal mission, Paul, to help people before the crisis, help them talk to me before they have their own medical emergency. The reality is that every person with Alzheimer's disease has 4 unpaid caregivers. Those folks that are caring for someone who has an Alzheimer's or dementia diagnosis, they precede their loved one who is sick 2/3 of the time. Why is that? Stress is killing them. It's exacerbating their other healthcare conditions, Paul, and it's such a wicked cycle.
Yeah, you're doing great work in trying to bring a little relief for all of us that in an inevitable situation. So yeah,
We don't want to make this a death sentence, and I don't want to make this just, oh, it's doom and gloom. We want to give you the tools so that you can love your loved one through the moment. Families can stay intact. They can still love each other, care for each other. And this doesn't have to be awful. And I can't thank you enough for hanging out with me a few minutes today. Is there anything else or any other resources that you want to share for us before we call it a time, Paul?
Not really. It's all right there on our website. Just real simple. You can just get the ebook and download it. There's other pages there. There's research. Again, there's that caregiver, care for the caregiver workshop that we did. And on there, there'll be a link to download just the workbook. Workbook means it's just 2 or 3 pages from the entire manual, because you don't need to learn the whole thing in order to take care of 1 or 2 problems. So the thing to remember is it's just touch, and it's just simple. Just keep it simple. And this will help, as you talked about, everything from the grandkids to the grandparents. Imagine taking a little 6, 7-year-old to take those 2 fingers and lightly go over to grandma and just touch her lightly, or him lightly. And just the thought of that, bringing family together back with touch, just the thought of it's healing. So I hope people will take advantage of it.
Yeah. I think when you said, as you were describing the story that got started, and that gentleman brought love to the Mancos Valley, that you really believe that love still heals, and love. And so for the people that are skeptical, the people that have gotten fed up with the life, maybe don't believe that, you firmly do. And this is evidence of that love. And so as we love our loved ones, I have a saying, Paul, we came up with around here too, that says it's our turn now to love and care for those who love and cared for us. So for those of you that are adult kids and you love your parents, you're frustrated, you're upset, it's a lot. It's still our turn now. So we have to do these certain things and learn about these ways that we can support ourselves, be supported, get what we need so we navigate, so we don't do unhealthy stuff. For any of you in the world that has compulsive tendencies, we do not want. We want to find some alternatives to the compulsions.
Right on.
As the adult child of an alcoholic says, right? So it's just like,
there you go.
Yeah. I just want to tell you again how much I appreciate this. I hope this is the beginning of an ongoing conversation, Paul, as we learn. I hope that folks take advantage. And once again, give us your website and contact information. One more time.
So again, justtouch.com. Email is office@justtouch.com. Our international headquarters is here in Tucson. If you're here in Tucson, you can go on the website and come in for a session. It's all on a donation basis. And if you're in the global community, we have practitioners all around the world trying to share this freely with their community.
Awesome.
We look forward to sharing it with you. And
I hope this has been helpful to everybody. And Paul, grateful to you for sharing the way you share, and looking forward to digging in. And when I get to Tucson, I'd love to come see you guys. And then, like I said,
get your own session.
Get my own session, have my team come in. Everybody, as I said earlier, we do this because I'm just so concerned about the condition of these adult kids, those of us that are going through this and living it. We own our businesses and we have clients that are in these spaces. If you're a professional and have clients in these spaces, oh my gosh, please hear us, that we learn to ask the right questions. We identify what might be stressing or pressing into their lives, so we can get people pointed to the right resources. And I'm here to answer and help with those kinds of things. If you're an adult child like myself, and you've been touched by some of this, or things are coming, do not put it off without getting some help. I do not want the haboob visiting your family any more than I wanted it for mine. Feel free to reach out to us. Options for Senior Living since 2003 has helped families navigate the complexities of our long-term care system here in the greater Phoenix area. We have connections all over the country. We can help you with so many resources, and not just here locally in the Valley, but all over the United States. And I've got a pretty big network to touch when families have loved ones out of state as well. So we're glad to be here for everybody. I'm just delighted to be able to get to share this story with our listeners. And we just urge you to share, download, all the things, so that you can be part of this growing community. And just want to thank you for joining me today. So until next time, this is Scott Fischer with Options for Senior Living.